Hi guys, we've had a question in about how to use a foam roller. Now there's a lot of debate online about whether they actually work or not at all, and the consensus is they do work but not the way we think they work. So for a long time we've spoken about how they help break down the fascia and help muscles and connective tissues slide and glide, and we now know that's probably not how it works. But what is likely to be happening is that by putting pressure on your body and with the foam roller and then sending a signal up to the brain then sends a signal back down saying relax muscle, it's okay, and so it's probably happening more in the brain than it is actually in the soft tissue, but that's okay, it's still working. So I generally use them fairly frequently with people who are active, like runners and gym goers, and if you put your body through a lot physically, you're the sort of person that seems to get a good response from them. So this is how I use it, and generally I'm doing this while watching Netflix. I'll start at the bottom, and what I'm looking for in the tissue is a little tender point, and that's where the foam roller really comes into its own. If I find a tender point in the muscle, so I've just found one, I'll just roll an inch forwards, back and forwards over it. Here I've got my hips off the floor, I'm supporting myself through the skeleton of the arms, I'm not using my muscles, just locked out elbows. If I want to put in more tenderness, I can just cross the other leg over. My rule is it should be tender, but you shouldn't be gritting your teeth and wincing, so there should be a nice tenderness there. And then once that softens, you can then just keep going through to the next bit. You can work through your hamstrings. I generally find it's not the best for the hamstrings, so I use a lacrosse ball. And then you can work your way up into the glutes as well, and for the glutes I use the corner and push my body down into the foam roller at an angle, and that really gets the nice tender points all around the back of the hip. Meanwhile, you can get the ITB. Now for a lot of people this is super tender where they would be wincing and gritting their teeth. So what I say to you is cross the other foot in front of your knee and use the foot and the elbow to lift the weight off the roller. So I'm now using the foot, this hand and this elbow to push into the floor to take pressure off, and then I can gradually put pressure on as I feel that things relax, and I'm using the same concept, rolling an inch or so back and forth over the tender points, and I can roll all the way onto my belly and get into the thigh muscles as well. And then you can go into the lower back and just do what's comfortable here. You don't want to really lean back over in the lower back, but you can then roll a little bit higher into what we call the thoracic spine, just where your ribs attach. And here you can do some nice big back bends and keep shifting. So here I've got my hips on the floor and I'm using my hands and my eyes to drive the motion up and extend over. So if you sit at a desk all day or find yourself on the phone a lot, this is a nice antidote to that. And you can use one hand as well to bring in a little bit of rotation. And lastly, you can lift the hips off the floor, give your shoulders a hug and just roll fairly quickly, and this will massage the muscles. You might get the odd little click and pop in your upper back as well. So it's a nice top to toe tool to stretch the muscles, mobilise the joints, and like I said earlier, we're communicating with the brain in a way that will tell the muscles to stay relaxed as well. So I hope that helps.